Hello, investors. It is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming to you with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state uptrend. If we go over here to the trend gauge, still have the four coveted green arrows, but for market leaders, if you tuned in yesterday, we did also put this yellow sub arrow for neutral. Just kind of a mixed bag. Some of the leaders had some pretty harsh breaks to the downside, while others are pulling back pretty orderly. And I'll cover some of those when I get into the charts. Short term, mid caps and RSP equal weight are trading back below the 21 EMA, so yellow arrow there, but the S&P remains above. And then medium term, everything trading above the 50-day, and then long term, everything above the 200-day moving average. So what happened today? Kind of day two of a pullback for leaders in the indexes. And we'll highlight some of the RS we're seeing, and that's kind of the mode we're in right now. Look for attractive risk to reward pullback buys, and then also noting the relative strength as when the market tends to bounce, the names that hold up best tend to spring to the upside. Here are the final numbers: 21 over 21 down 2.6%, 4 green, 1 neutral, 16 red. Big 8 up 0.75%, largely led by Google, closing the day up 5.5%, which we bought today. RG8 down 1.1%, S&P 500 down 0.3, RSP down 0.61, QQQ down 0.34%, Equal Weight down 0.79%, Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.31%, Mid Caps down 0.68%, Russell 2000 down 0.39%, 60/40 stock and bond down 0.4%, and in-house GROTECTION down down 1.08%. We'll get into the interasset correlation as usual, and we'll start with the S&P 500. So first break below the 8 EMA, so that's definitely notable. And then 21 days continuing to catch up. Still not quite through 6,000 yet, but we were watching this 60/50 support level, and we broke it today, and that kind of led to the downside. So now these next levels are 60/17, and then obviously 6,000, which is that whole number. So we'll have to see into the end of this week, but I mean overall, looks fine from a daily perspective, and even the 60-minute looks fine. Obviously, we did break that 60/50 level. Would like to see, an undercut and reclaim into the end of the week. But as long as we're trending above and making higher lows, the trend is still intact. But just something to monitor. If this starts to, shoot off lower and break the 21 and the 50-day, then there could be some more issues. RSP, closing back below the 21-day. We'll see, but still pretty orderly. It's got a downtrend line here, so maybe this breaks up and resolves to the upsides. CPI is tomorrow morning, and then you got the 50-day support right here. But the RSP is a good picture of like the average stock, and as you can see, the average stock has been pulling back for the last 5-6 days, so that's something to note. QQQ. Still relative strength here. You can note this here. And this one's kind of just forming a little flag pivot here. Could just use a couple days consolidation, but still just kind of trending up. This Magnificent 7 ETF continues to power higher. Tesla, Google, Apple, Amazon, lots of strength here, and you can see it in the chart. Dow Jones pulling back to the 21. We'll see if this can hold. Mid caps, again, kind of similar setup, kind of forming these flags here, close below the 21-day, but overall, like, the pattern, the shape looks intact. You had a, 5-day push up here, and now pulling back into the 21-day pretty orderly. So we'll see if this can wedge pop back through this week. Russell 2000, same side up, flag pattern here, falling wedge, whatever you want to call it, off the 21-day. ARC continue to see relative strength in this basket of stocks after this base breakout continues higher and well above the 21-day and closing above the 8. So definitely money flowing into these type of names. And obviously with Tesla really strong, this is helping ARK. VIX up a little bit today, but still, living below 20 and even living below 15. So, um, you can argue it is kind of like, at the low end of the range down here, but we've seen the VIX can stay down there. So as long as it continues to stay below that 18, 16 area, I think that's good. The dollar objectively looks pretty bullish, breaking out of this flag pattern. So just continue to monitor this. If this further upside could weigh in on equities. Gold, wedge popping the 50-day moving average today. So maybe this area of the market's back into play, but again, gold's harder. You're better off buying it on weakness versus strength, but is notable getting back above all the moving averages. Gold stocks, relative weakness below the 50-day. Silver, similar thing, kind of wedge popping, trying to get back above the 50-day. Bitcoin looks great. Still one of the best spots in the market right now, forming a 4-day flag here. And this one looks good. Maybe needs a little bit more time, but back below 100,000, but this is acting good after this big base breakout. Continues to make higher lows, and so we'll see if this can resolve to the upside. Bonds is kind of just consolidating here. TLT, same thing, back below the 200-day, and then rates kind of trying to break this down trend line. TNX, similar things. So we'll just see some of the rate sensitive sectors got hit today with rates moving back up. So that's the inter-asset correlation. We'll get into the tail of the tape. And so I want to talk about percent of stocks versus the 5-day moving average on the S&P. Obviously, we added this into the tail of the tape, and as you can see, let's see. So this is kind of starting to get back into the low end of the range. That's why I wanted to include it. As you can see, when it gets into this area, typically the market tends to bounce a little bit. So this is also when you want to scan for relative strength. But into the low end of the range, see if this can hook back up and could coincide with a bounce in the general market. So that's that. All right, back into the tail of the tape. Back into the tail of the tape. And so that's that. News. Tomorrow morning we have CPI, and then following Thursday there's jobless claims and PPI. So going into today, we were watching the S&P versus that 60-50 level, clearly broke. So into tomorrow, we're going to watch that 6,000 psych level, and then 6,017 is another big one. QQQ versus 516, the spot held still, just a couple points higher. So this level is still in play for tomorrow. And then, growth leader weakness, kind of mixed bag. Some bouncing nicely today, some relative strength, and others, more cracks to the downside. So we'll have to see there, and, just continue to watch the leaders. They're called leaders for a reason, so they can give you, sometimes insights into what the market wants to do. Day count down 2. First close back below the 8 EMA, 16 days above the 21. And basically today, we popped off the open, and then that 60-50 support failed, and then kind of just downside trend into the close. Sectors-wise, communications, gold, transports, Bitcoin, retail, regional banks up today. And then to the downside, China, notoriously known for the gap and crabs, and did that exactly today. Semiconductors down again, just a lot of weakness in that sector. Home builders, software pulling back, cybersecurity. In-house today, we took a starter in Google on that news. They obviously announced the release of Willow. It's a new quantum computing chip. Really positive reaction there with volume. And then we trimmed VRT and Snow, and then sold BE. That brought our RVAB down to 1.73, and balance at risk is 6.25%. So bottom line, index and leaders pause / pull back, relative strength question mark, and we'll take a look there. So look at the trades. First one, Google. You can see gapping out of the space here on 100% above average volume. And obviously they had that news in the morning, and you can see gapped up, powered up off the open, kind of pulled back to the opening lows, and really strong close, especially if you look at the S&P into the close, straight down, and then Google up into the close. So good close there. We'll see how this one reacts. Take a look at the weekly. This is a great weekly base, and obviously this has been cup and handle on the weekly. So maybe this one starts to reassert itself as some leadership in the mega cap space. Trimmed VRT, just breaking the 21-day, and now this one's coming into the 50-day, so that will be a big test. One of the leaders, this is one of the first leaders to come into the 50-day, so we'll see what this one wants to do. Snow, kind of a harsh pullback, breaking the 8. We trim this. Like to see this hold the gap support in the 21-day as it catches up, and then BE, pulling back, just harsh breakdown to the 21-day and really no traction. And if you look at the sector's, hasn't been doing well. Oklo's one breaking down below the 50-day. SMR continues to make lower highs. And then you have GEV, breaking the 21-day. So, and then VST back into the 50-day, CEG moving lower to the downside. So, this sector has been struggling lately, and obviously they've had big runs this year, so maybe they just need longer term base, but definitely not getting that performance in that area right now. Take a look at the 21 over 21 list. Top gainers, Tesla. This one continues to be a highlight in the market. Once it broke 360, it's continuing higher and sitting right at that 400 level. And then it looks like this one may want to take out all-time highs soon. And, once it gets through all that overhead, this one really could start to trend. But probably the best liquid leader in the market right now, in my eyes. So continue to watch that one. Sprouts Farmers Market holding the 21-day XPO. Transports XTN was up today. This one's looking to come out of a nice looking base. Bitcoin covered that. Decker's nice little, handling out after the space breakout. LNG, some of these natural gas names kind of after this run here, they're just pulling back, really losing momentum. LNG's one. You can look at EQT. Maybe this is setting up a little flag pattern here. You've got KMI's another one. Maybe these are setting up flags. We'll see. RBRK, this is a software security name, had that strong earnings gap. This one looks good. It started off hot as the market started to come in. This one pulled back, but definitely watching this one. CRDO pulling back to the 8. It's kind of sitting right at that gap day lows. So definitely want to see it hold those lows. Twilio, this one may need a pullback, just super extended. Palantir, another one, outside bearish engulfing candle the other day, back to the 8. And, a lot of these names just got pretty short-term extended. So maybe they need a couple months base. Maybe they need the moving averages to catch up. We don't know. So we're going to let the market tell us. But, nothing out of the ordinary, especially after these big moves up. Bros starting to pull back into the 21-day. This could provide an opportunity. Team, again, another one that could provide an opportunity, pulling back into the 21-day. And the key is on these pullbacks is you want to wait for an upside. You want to, as they're pulling back to that support, that moving average, you want to see them start to hook up and close in the upper end of the range. CLS, just kind of 2-day pullback. Carvana coming back into the 50-day. A-Lab, same thing. This one's continues to be super strong, not even breaking the 8 or touching it, down 3% today. But, this one looks good. The Saxwell maybe just needs to consolidate a little bit up here, form a new base. We'll see. VRT covered this one. TCOM, probably one of the best China ones. And I'll show FXI. Gaps up here, immediate gap down, and this is just kind of the story of Chinese stocks. They're notorious for fake outs. TCOM probably held up the best. You can look at like Futu, again, gap and crap back below the 50-day. Baba's another one people like. It just looks like a pump for now. If it was that meaningful, they should follow through or at least put in a tight inside day, but maybe they come back into the end of the week, just a tough sector market to trade in. Reddit, again, it's got pretty extended, at the highs. This was 40% above the 50-day, working some of that, or 53% above the 50-day, working some of that extension off, now only 40%. And, I think the leaders are clear. So, just see if they form a new base. SMR covered this one, BE covered that one. Wanted to show semiconductors. Look like they're sitting really right at the neckline of a pretty big head and shoulders pattern. And there's this quote, bottoms are an event, tops are a process, and just kind of based on the price action, this looks like a topping formation. When you look at NVIDIA, and this one is breaking the 50-day here. Excuse me. So it held the 50-day here, bounced, rallied back up, and now coming lower, and just kind of, just not getting any performance out of this one. And you look at other ones, you got Avgo, started to, look strong last week, popped up, coming back in. ARMS, another semiconductor. This one looks like, it's about to break lower, back below the 200-day. So, this just isn't a sector showing relative strength. And obviously this is kind of a bear flag breakdown. And, on our morning call this morning, we always give a short idea just to keep ourselves open-minded. And many of us said semiconductors. But we'll see. I mean, there is some strength here. You have A-Lab, Marvell looks great. This one is pulling back to the 8 after that earnings gap. So maybe if it retakes that gap days low, this could be a good one. And then some other relative strength, AI, this one gapped lower on earnings, bounced off the 21-day and closed mid-range on 900% above average volume. So we've seen some of these earnings shake and bakes. Affirm's probably the best example I could show you guys from this year. You can see this was the earnings days, gapped lower, held the 50-day, and then had that strong move. If you look at AI's weekly chart, this looks pretty good. And, the software sector has been getting some love. FTNT is another cybersecurity name that's kind of setting up in this base, showing some relative strength. Zillow, I noticed, looks all right, pulling back pretty orderly. And then I wanted to cover IGV. So I talked about this sector, the names in the sector acted really well. So now you got the ETF pulling back to the 21-day, and this could provide some setups in the sector. CRM is definitely a leader, pulling back to the 8. So definitely some relative strength there and ones to watch. But really, more so in a chill mode right now. We're managing positions, looking for relative strength, and just kind of taking it day by day. One thing I did want to mention is historically seasonality. In the middle of December into this week really as well is typically weak / sideways, and then into the end of December historically is strong. So that's another thing that we're watching, keeping in the back of our mind. And yeah, I think that's everything I got for today. We always like to hear from you. My email is connor@revereasset.com, and then you can always reach out to Dan or Don at revereasset.com. Phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH. That is 855-732-5932. If you're ever interested in becoming a client, please reach out. And with that, I'll wrap it for Tuesday, December 10th, 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Connor Bates with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening and have a great evening.